Hi, guys. Long time no haircut. It's been a hot minute. I debated whether or not I was going to make this video because I felt like I hadn't even read that much in September to warrant making a video about that month. It's the 13th of October at this point, but here we are anyway. It's also evening. Is this cozy? This light? Are you liking it? Do you feel like this is an intimate setting? Nice, warm. I am warm, for one. I have been busy. I have been going back to school. I have been to Switzerland. Oh, I have some very exciting news, but I'll get to it later. No, actually, I'm gonna say it now. Last month, September, there was a literary festival in my country, in Utrecht, which I knew about because I saw on Instagram that Maggie Nelson would be there. And I was like, that's cool, because I love Maggie Nelson. So I will be attending that talk. And then while me and my friend were there, we saw Jeanette Winterson was going to be there the next week. I have never bought tickets for an event that fast. Most important day of my life, perhaps. I will talk about that more later, because yeah, first I will go over the things that I read in September before I forget about them, because honestly so much has happened. I've already lost the plot of most of it. The good thing is that the first book didn't actually have a plot, so that helps. I don't have to explain anything to you. It was pwned by Claire Louise Bennett, which I thought was a novel, but it's actually not. Apparently it's a collection of short stories. They're not necessarily short stories, I would say, because they don't have a plot. They're mostly just vibes, and that's it. There wasn't a lot going on. It's about a woman who lives in the countryside in like a cabin kind of situation. I don't know. She's not alone. Well, she is alone. She lives alone, but like she has neighbors that she talks about. So all of the stories are in the same setting, which is why I kind of consider it a novel. Anyway, it was very calm, quiet, understated, if you will. What I liked about it was that it was like you were just listening to this woman speaking, and you didn't really have to pay attention to what she was saying because there was no plot. There wasn't really any point to it, but she was using beautiful words, so it was nice. If you're looking for something quiet, that one is nice. That's all I have to say about it. I think I rated it like 7.5 because at some point the writing did turn a bit mind-numbing, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It depends on your mood, I guess. The next book I read though was The Summer Without Men by Siri Hustvedt, whom I didn't know anything about. I just knew that writers I love Siri Hustvedt. So I was like, I'm gonna have to read one of her books. I picked this one because of the title, not because of this cover. Yeah, The Summer Without Men. It basically is what it says on the tin. It's about a woman who is dumped by her husband of many years, and she has a mental breakdown. And then after that, she goes to live in her mother's town, teaches poetry to preteen girls, and she hangs out with her female neighbor and her daughter a lot. So basically, she has a summer surrounded by women and no men. There is a bit of plot in this, but it's not like there's a big story or anything, but it's just the progression of her summer, and she has a lot of thinking and processing to do. I really loved the way that this was built up. It also talks about some theory and some like interesting facts about gender and stuff in general. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 9.5 out of 10. It wasn't a full-on 10 out of 10 because it wasn't queer, and I feel like if it had been queer, it would have gone into the gender thing more. Do you know what I mean? What the Barbie movie was for some of y'all, this was for me. This is my Barbie. I love this very much. I would very much recommend it if you like. I'm not going to say Maggie Nelson anymore because I've realized that Maggie Nelson's way smarter than I can comprehend. Maybe Siri Hustvedt just stands on her own. If you like literature, women, things, you should probably read Siri Hustvedt. At least I can recommend this one. So, did you guys know the guy who discovered the clitoris was also named Columbus? Just like the guy who discovered America, which women and Indigenous Americans already knew that those things existed. That's a fun fact I learned from this book. And when my mom asked me what I learned from reading novels, that's the first thing I said. Anyway, I'm so glad you can actually like see the full hair in this light. It's for the best. The next thing I read was yet another Shakespeare. I read Romeo and Juliet. I had to read it for my adaptation class because we were watching the 1989 classic Romeo and Juliet, directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Leo as Romeo. I know I've said things about Shakespeare before that I don't think I'm going to take them back because I stand by what I said, but I will say that I read this one in a different way, which is technically I didn't read it so much as I watched Sally's long video series on this book, where basically she translated the book into modern language for me. So I didn't read it so much as actually understood what was going on. And let me just tell you, I'm a Shakespeare girly now. I get it. I honestly think that, you know, when it comes to romance, what is the point if the characters aren't ready to die for each other 3 days into it? That's the kind of shit I want. I crave that kind of drama. I get it now. It's the same with the Titanic. I love the Titanic too. Leo in the 90s, he was giving it his all. I love a passionate romance, and I love it when someone dies at the end. So yeah, I can safely say that Romeo and Juliet is my favorite Shakespeare play. I am gonna get my own copy of it though, because there were some banger lines in there that I do wanna annotate someday. The next thing I read was also for uni, and it was The Trial by Franz Kafka. You can't read this at all, but it's a Dutch translation. I wanted to read the Dutch translation because it just reads better from German, and I was very right about that. This is a very good translation. I don't know who did it. Willem van der Toorn. Slay. I also listened to the audiobook alongside, which was also very good. The book itself, yeah, sure, I liked. You know what The Trial by Kafka is. What I like most about it is that Kafka hated this book so much that he never actually even turned it into a book. He just wrote some loose things and then he never published it. And then after he died, one of his friends put the things that he'd written for it in a certain order to make it make sense, and then he published it, and now it's a classic. And I love that story. I should start publishing things because I think all my writing is shit. If Kafka thought all his writing was shit, I might be the next Kafka. Let's not jinx that. Yeah, I read it. It was cool. We watched the Orson Welles adaptation for it. No comment really on that one. They were both just like fine. I actually only finished this on October 1st, but since it is October 13th, we're not gonna nitpick over one day. This is the most hideous cover that I own, probably. It's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Finally read it. Can't say I was too stoked about it. I'm sorry. It's about people going to each other's houses. That one review, it didn't lie. I just don't think that 1800s English society is my scene. And I think that's okay. I will say that Darcy is a mood. That man has autism. I thought he was very relatable for it. At least as that. I think if this had been like 100 pages, I would have been cool with it. I think I would have even liked it. However, when the whole thing with Lydia started to happen, I stopped caring and I didn't begin caring again. That's where it went wrong for me. At least I read it now. I have to say also, lately, audiobooks have been fucking saving my ass because I could not have read this without also listening to the audio. Oh, and what else I wanted to say about this book is that this is like an edition that they made in the 90s in the Netherlands for like students to read, but I genuinely think that someone just typed this whole thing because there were so many mistakes in it. Spelling mistakes, but also there's a couple of pages where Jane's name is spelled Jade consistently. It's crazy. Some words are consistently spelled wrong throughout the entire thing. I don't know what happened here. Interested to know how this publisher obtains the text that they publish. But anyway, yeah, I now read Pride and Prejudice, and if you saw me rating it 2 stars on Goodreads, mind your business, please. Thank you. I've decided I'm just going to give like my honest opinions on Goodreads, like based on how I feel about a book, not on how other people feel about the book. Those are all the books I read in September. Only that's not entirely true because I also started some other books that didn't finish. One of them I'm still reading. I picked it back up today, so I'll just show you in the next wrap up in like 2 weeks. But what I also started reading was Bluets by Maggie Nelson because I was going to see Maggie Nelson. I wanted to reread this, to like revisit it before I saw the man, the myth, the legend, Maggie Nelson herself. I didn't end up finishing it before I saw her though. I actually finished it today. However, what I wanted to show you is that this is now signed. Her signature is just an M. It was very funny to me, but anyway, yeah, she wrote my name. How fun is that? I had her sign the Argonauts too. I also bought On Freedom, which is now on my TBR stack, even though I will not be reading it for a long time because her brain is too big for my little pea brain to get into that right now. I just can't, but it is there and it is signed. About rereading this, I still love it. There's a lot of new things that I annotated. However, it didn't hit as hard as it did the first time, but I think that's just what rereads are. Maybe I didn't leave enough time in between. I don't know, but it was still good. Now, onto... I shook Janette Winterson's hand. Guys, Janette Winterson. I know they say don't meet your heroes. I was a bit scared that she was going to be intimidating because of her writing, which I love very dearly, but she wasn't. She was very funny. She did 2 talks on that day. I went to both. She was cracking jokes. She was rearranging the stage furniture. She was talking about her house ghosts. She was even making jokes about her mother, whom she wrote books about. So that was fun. Afterwards, she did a signing. And so I almost shat myself for the entire week trying to think of what the hell I was supposed to be saying to Janette Winston. But like I was going to perceive her, but also she was going to perceive me, my silly ass, my fangirl creature being. So I spent the whole week trying to think of what the hell I was supposed to say to her. If you watched my channel before, if you haven't, then you might be wondering what's going on here, but Janette Winston is my favorite writer of all time, ever. I have these 14 books here and I have read them all and I love them all very much. She's like my number 1 author. I love her very much. I didn't really ever consider that I might ever meet her. I didn't really think of her as an author who like went to festivals and things. But she does. I don't know why I thought of her as like this monk who doesn't leave her house, but she does leave her house and she comes to the Netherlands even, which is crazy. But anyway, I spent the whole week trying to think of what the hell I was supposed to say to her. The day before, I decided that I wouldn't plan on saying anything because I would just lose my mind once I would be standing in front of her and then I would start stumbling over words and it would just be awkward. So I decided to just improvise. I think I didn't embarrass myself that much, even though I took 5 books for her to sign. It was hard to choose from the stack of many more. Anyway, so now I present to you my most prized possession in the world. This is my copy of Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit, which I got secondhand in a bookstore at one point in my life. This was the first book of hers that I ever bought, first book of hers that I ever read. It's also the first book of hers that she ever wrote, so that's cool. So I had to bring this one. During the talk, she said some very inspiring and really cool things about how we should be living our life as a short story rather than a novel and things like that. But she also said something about how they were talking about like writing autofiction, and she was talking about how when you see yourself as both fiction and fact, you can then start to look at yourself like from a distance and change the plot, change the story. She said it in a really cool way during the talk, and so when I was standing right in front of her with my maniacal smile, I asked her to write that down in like a concise way in this book because this is the autofiction. I'm not going to read it to you though because this is for me. She wrote a sentence on the spot for me. This is now my sentence written by Janette Winterson for me. Anyway, look, I took this with me to Switzerland just in case my house would burn down while I was gone. I might take it everywhere from now on. I'm very serious when I say this is my most prized possession in the world. I also had all these other ones signed. Here's my power book. Look. Wait, I should show you the book that she was there to talk about in the first place. But the weird thing is, when she was there, the book wasn't out yet in English. It was only out in Dutch, which never happens. This is the book that she was here to talk about. I pre-ordered it and I got it in the mail when I came back from Switzerland. It's called The Night Tide of the River, which is such a banger title. It's ghost stories that also have to do something with AI, which is cool. I haven't read it yet, obviously, but I'm excited to. And once I finish that, I think I will be making a video on Janette and Winston at last. It's long overdue. That was the last day of September and also the best day of September. I shook Janette Winston's hand. I'm actually forgetting something very important. I also shook Ellie Smith's hand. Just in case you were wondering about Ellie Smith's handwriting, please try to decipher this because I haven't managed yet. I don't know what this is. I know that this is my name, which she liked, by the way. Don't know what the rest of it says, but I love it. I didn't talk to her too much because I was intimidated and I didn't know what to say, but I did shake her hand. I'm just hoping that like some of that talent will rub off on me, and now I am carrying some of that within me so that I can be the writer that I wish to be someday. That was my September. It was pretty great. Have you guys ever met your favorite author, or just like any author or anyone? I don't know. Come tell me something in the comments. Tell me what you read this month. Read Stonebridge Blues, not by Jeanette Winston, by Leslie Feinberg. See you in a few weeks for the October wrap up. Bye!